All the games that Brandon Miller's played. Yes.
The
Oh,
Scoot
Scoot.
injury.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
There's no like he was so much better than everybody on the court for the first 5 minutes of the game before he got hurt. I don't know, Bernie. I don't mean to just rant because I actually have a worse rant later. This one is just more like these guys get
Oh
paid
wow. Okay.
millions of dollars to scout these play. Maybe not millions, but they get paid hefty sums to scout these guys. These GMs get paid millions to draft these guys. And we're still making choices like this.
Guy struggling and things like that. Like he's getting some buckets here and there, but the concern for me is obviously the fouling. 18 fouls. He's trying to get adjusted to the game speed, but the body language that I've seen from Brandon Miller, and I don't know if this has to do because of um, the whatchamacallit, the whole incident at Alabama or whatever it is, but it's kind of one of those things
Mm.
where I don't know, he just doesn't look like he enjoys basketball very much. That's kind of
Dude,
one.
yeah,
It's kind of
it's
one of
got
those
to be
things,
hard.
and I don't really see and like I told you, Pete, like when we talked about Brandon Miller, obviously for fit, like the best that I could see him being, like I said, was a Mikal Bridges, what he was this year. Like not even Bridges, like, or sorry, not even better than Bridges. And Bridges is a good player. I'm not going to discredit Mikal Bridges,
Mm-hmm.
but it's kind of one of those things that he's just a 3-and-D guy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They're going to be a role player type of guy, and for the Hornets, I think that they needed to take some risks and things like that now, looking back on it. Because whether or not you like.
Basketball in a year and a half professionally, right?
Yeah.
He won't have played that long by the time we actually get to opening day. He's also a scumbag. I mean, outside of whatever happened with Brandon Miller, I'm not even going to say allegedly. I mean, we know what happened with Miles Bridges. We're bringing him back. Bernie, how many demonstrations of how important culture in a team, team chemistry, how important it is to success in the NBA? How much do we need to see that for all the teams realize that it's not just talent?
Yeah.
It's both. It's
Hmm.
the character of the person and their talent that makes truly special players.
Yeah.
And
I
yet
mean,
there's a team in Charlotte that continues to not learn. I mean, you say a couple years that draft pick might have set them back, Bernie. That might have set them back another 15 years. Get me out of here. I
I
wasn't even
wouldn't.
going to resign. I wasn't even going to stay here anyway.
I mean, I wouldn't blame him if he doesn't want to stay. Like, I wouldn't want to stay
Who
either.
would? I mean, I would say the chances have to be slimmer that he stays going forward than they do he leaves. I would say it's crazy. If anybody's taking the bet that he stays, it has to be pretty good odds. It's not looking pretty. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I just don't understand it in any way, shape, or form. Like you could have genuinely rebuilt your team to have some genuine chemistry between the guys. Look down the road a little bit instead of just saying, this guy might be the most ready right now, Brandon Miller. But they don't want to do that, man. They don't. And I told you before the draft, I would have taken Amen Thompson over Brandon Miller. I would have
Yes.
taken Amen Thompson's brother Asur over Brandon Miller.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel kind of bad
in
for Asur. I feel like he's kind of the odd man out
Detroit.
in that Detroit team. Not saying that it's because he's bad. It's like
Oh man. Oh, it was Keontae George had the 30-point game, the big one, the first night. For all we know, I honestly think Keontae George is going to be a stud, but it could be an aberration. I mean, it's summer league, dude. He's playing against guys who are most of them are never going to play any more minutes in the NBA if they ever have anyway.
hmm
That being said, it goes both ways. You don't know if anybody's a bust or going to be a superstar from summer league. That's not what it's for. Like summer league is literally to get your feet wet. It is to kind of experience what it's like to be in the NBA against similar level people. Not. It's not that level. It's a step below, but probably better than most of the places these kids have played before. Um,
hmm
it's just crazy, man. It's just crazy. Brandon Miller, he's not going to be a bust. Maybe he will be, but I can't say for sure. It's been 2-3 games. Same for Wemby, same for Scoot. But it's looked pretty ugly for Brandon Miller. And
Yeah.
if they're gonna, they drafted him, and then you're gonna still, you're still gonna go and re-sign Miles Bridges, which I can. Does that make a lot of sense to you, Bernie? Isn't Brandon Miller like he is a 3 or a 4, right? Which is essentially Miles Bridges' role. He's a slasher. He can shoot a bit. Pretty
Yeah.
much very similar games. So you took the guy who's the fit. He was only a fit because your other guy was out from criminal charges, right? Then you bring the guy back, so now the fit doesn't even apply anymore anyway. It's just asinine business from a bad team.
Hmm.
Really, they're going to live to regret it. I'm just letting it be known now. Scoot, there's literally no bust. I'm not calling any bust or superstar either way. I'm just telling you now, there's no way Scoot Henderson is worse than Brandon Miller. It's not happening. It's impossible.
Yeah.
My
I did.
might be my hardest lock of all time.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with you there. I think it is a very disappointing thing to see, kind of the whole situation that is occurring right now. But yeah, I mean, I think the Charlotte Hornets probably made a mistake, and I think that now they have to live with what they have, and that's just kind of the reality of it.
Sleep in
But
that bed they made.
But what I do want to talk about is really some studs that I saw out there. One of some of the studs that I know. I think Sean. I know Sean can't comment just because of the way YouTube is acting out right now. I know he's probably watching on Kick, and he's going to be smiling, grinning from ear to ear for this one. Is Chet Holmgren? I think Chet Holmgren. I think a lot of people were concerned about. How is he going to recover from the foot injury? Like, is he going to be the same player? Like, what's going to happen with him? I think he's kind of proven everybody and really the haters wrong. I think that you mentioned a little bit of your L on
Yeah.
Chet Holmgren on your take on him, uh, but he's one of those players that I saw out there like watching him play like he is really good. Like offensively, defensively, like he's going to be a stopper on defense. He's going to be a guy that you can pass the ball to and get some good looks at. And so, he's just one of those guys, Pete, that like I'm excited to see him in the NBA, like actually playing in an NBA game because he looks NBA ready now. I think last year, he had some good games. He had some really good moments, but I think, obviously it's just like Wemby, like the body needs to develop a little bit more and let him grow a little bit of muscle, let him gain a little bit more weight, and in a healthy way. And I think that that's you're seeing like full potential of what Chet Holmgren can be both offensively and defensively. And so I think Chet is one of my I don't know what's studs. That's what we call this
Yeah,
segment.
studs.
So he's
Yeah,
definitely one of my studs.
this is my little confession. I already actually texted you this after the
Hmm.
first game. Um, I owe Chet an apology. I didn't necessarily think he was going to be a bust, but if you remember last year in our pre-draft, he was definitely out of the three main guys. My controversial statement of all of last year actually directly applies to, the guys we were just talking about. I said I would take Scoot over Chet last year. I actually still would, to be fair. But I had Chet like fourth or fifth, counting for Scoot if he could have gotten into last year's draft. I also said that I just didn't necessarily like the way his body looked, more so than most guys who are, 7 foot plus and skinny. Like he had that kind of hunch to his back. Just really, truly didn't look like he
Hmm.
had any meat on his bones. But one thing that was true about him then, and it is certainly true now, he is so skilled, man, for his
Yeah.
size. He's so skilled, so fluid with the ball. The funny part, Bernie, heard a lot of people say, like, he had Wembanyama in that second game. He hit that little between the legs crossover into that pull up
Hmm.
jumper that looked just absolutely smooth. And people are saying he looks like KD. I honestly think Chet has some KD type stuff in his game, like more so than Wembanyama in terms of just the look of it, how smooth and just
Hmm.
crispy all his offensive actions are. It's just really nice to look. But um, yeah, man, I owe him an apology. He certainly took that time last year after his foot got injured in that OAM game or whatever you want to call it, the one in Seattle, the um,
The Crawford.
Jamal Crawford one. Yep.
Jamal.
Um, He definitely has greatly improved his body in a lot of ways, and I give him a lot of credit, man. I mean, he's certainly put the work in and done his thing this season. Yeah, he was one of the guys that stuck out to me for sure. Going off of what you said, this one's for Sean too, because I remember him saying this in the chat, I think
Mhm.
2 weeks ago when we did it. He called out Keontae George as one of his guys
Yeah.
that he was really big on coming into this draft. And I like Keontae George too, but he, I mean, dang. I mean, out of all the guys that had their, of this most recent draft that had their stock rise drastically, I think he's the one that had it go up the most because in 16th pick, you look at all the guys that got picked over him and,
Mhm.
you know, it's, that's kind of crazy. That's kind of
Yeah.
crazy. He looks pretty good.
Yeah.
And really for things that are years old. I mean, I feel like the biggest thing that made him drop was his health, right? And just the fact that he collapsed, right? I feel like that
Mhm.
was literally the biggest thing, which is funny because I'm just going to go to my second guy, and I'm sorry if I'm stealing him from you. Is Cam Whitmore? I mean, the fact that the kid
Oh,
slid to 20,
yeah, that's a crime.
it's a crime. It's a crime. It's unbelievable that these teams let this stuff happen. I mean, you have to be a little risk averse, but you also can't just be taking like the fact that the Magic took like Jet Howard, right? At 11, I think it was. You let guys like Cam Whitmore slide. I mean, you have to be able to risk the biscuit a little bit every so often. Look at what
Mhm.
happened with Michael Porter Jr. I mean, for all the guff that guy has gotten over the first few years of his career. Guy was just playing in a finals and won a finals. Did he do it all on his own? Was he the best player on the team? Absolutely not. But a lot of teams passed on him because of some injury issues, and they could have had him. He was a very valuable guy on a championship team. So, yeah, shouts out Cam Whitmore. Shouts out to Keontae George. I think two biggest like fallers in the draft because of health that have instantly been like, yeah, why did you guys do
Mhm.
that? You guys all
Yeah.
made a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, another guy we kind of have to shout out, and he kind of is silencing the haters just a little bit, is Jabari
Say my
Smith.
guy. Yeah, Bernie. Yeah,
Jabari Smith
Bernie.
balling out, 35 points a game. I know that this is between two games, but he's obviously played really well. I think he's kind of silenced a little bit of the people that question the Rockets at number 2. The Rockets are slowly starting to turn into an NBA uh what do you call it? NBA League Pass team to watch because
Oh,
of their
yeah.
their young team. I think guys like Tari Eason are showing great development, great improvement. Um, Obviously Jabari Smith. Um, Now they got Sengun there as well. That's playing
Boy,
tremendous.
amen.
Amen
Man Thompson.
Thompson before I think he got hurt, unfortunately.
Did, yeah, sprained ankle.
Sprained ankle, so I think he's out for the remainder of summer league. But
Mm-hmm.
still improved really well. I mean, you could see like why people hyped him up a lot and why guys maybe like Kevin Porter Jr. could potentially be moved and traded. Um, but yeah, I mean this team is looking very good. They're looking younger. They're looking um, well coached. I mean, it's going to be one of those things that you're going to see in the future. Like this is going to be Ma Udoka's handprints or blueprints written all over it. I think that this is going to be an exciting team to watch, man. I love what I'm seeing from all these guys. I think Jabari Smith, like going back to that guy, that a lot of people questioned, especially at number 2. Um, I think a lot of people are kind of getting their answers to why he got taken number 2. Offensively, he's kind of showing you a little bit more.
He was three, wasn't he?
What's that?
Crazy.
Oh no, he was
I thought
3.
he
He was
was,
3. He was
he
3,
was
right?
three,
Because
yeah.
it went
That went to.
Chet went 2. Yeah, you're right. But Jabari Smith, kind of showing some good things out there. So I think the Rockets have a lot to look forward to with their young roster with Emi Udoka as the coach. Now that they have a coach that every player likes, I think it's gonna be a fun thing to watch for summer league, continuing moving forward because I know there's a couple games on today.
Yeah, I totally agree on Jabari Smith Jr. He's definitely been you know who he's like this year? He's the Josh Giddey of this year, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
he's clearly too good to be playing with most of these guys.
Yeah.
He's just trying to actually like let it be known, hey, I am improving. Look at the difference between this season and last season. And I hate to keep doing this. I really do, Bernie. I sound like some different guy today. I've got this braggadociousness to me with some of my calls, but Jabari Smith Jr. is another guy. I heavily I weighted him pretty high last season
Mm-hmm.
coming into last year's draft just because never felt like he got a chance to be on a good team where the players around him actually made sense for his game.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, he never really did until, you know, he actually got the ball in his hands this summer league. I'm still waiting to see what the addition of Fred VanVleet to that team does for Jabari Smith Jr. because I think that's going to be the real difference maker. You
Yeah,
know, they had
I do agree.
no point guard play in Houston. And if you go back and watch some of his tape in Auburn, I mean, it's disgusting. It's absolutely filthy, the guys he had to play with. And I don't mean that in a good way. It was really gross. Nobody was passing him the ball. Um, when you're basically 6'10", like Rashard Lewis, you know, like you're going to go play really hard defense and shoot a lot of threes, that doesn't really do a lot for you when you don't have guys who are going to pass the ball. So, uh, yeah, I think he's going to absolutely thrive under Ime Udoka. I think that's what we're already seeing. I feel like there's
Mm-hmm.
no way that the attitude he showed. Did you see like some of the quotes he had where he's
Yeah.
like I did it didn't necessarily go great for me last season. Why wouldn't I be here playing? You know, I need to improve and get the minutes. It
Yep.
sounded like Ime talking. Like that
Yeah.
was like his mentality being imprinted upon these guys already. So I like Houston a lot. I do think, like you said, they have some moves they need to make. They need to make. I think they
Yeah.
should trade Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. as quick as they can.
The Jalen Green stuff. Yep.
It honestly, Bernie, has nothing to do with that. It's literally him as a player. I just don't think he fits on the team. I really don't.
Yeah.
Especially not with how much they paid Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet. You got to move some of those guards, man.
Yep. Let me continue some propaganda. You obviously know I love my propaganda here on this channel.
Love it, Bernie. I'd love
Um,
to hear more.
my propaganda, and really I think could be a rookie of the year candidate, Anthony Black. He played so well
Ooh.
in the summer league. I'm impressed with all of his stuff. He's a pass first type of guy. Yes, the shot still needs work, but that's the thing that he can get down. But the footwork that he has, the finishing around the rim, the playmaking off the pick and roll. I mean, I'm already sold on him, and he's obviously I think going to be the number one point guard for the Magic moving forward. Like, I'm definitely behind him. You know, I was on him. He was one of those guys that I said could be a culture changer for the Washington
Mm-hmm.
Wizards if they had him. Obviously they didn't get him because he went earlier than expected, but he's just one of those guys, Pete. I'm just excited to watch. I'm excited to kind of continue to monitor. And again, it's going to be another league pass team with the Orlando Magic. So
Yeah, they get it. They get a second year of being in my top 4, 5 most watched or just league pass teams. Um, yeah, I wasn't super high on Anthony Black, but honestly, the amount of I'm gonna throw some shots here again. I'm sorry to do this to you, Jet Howard. That pick was so bad, in my opinion, and it seemed like in the opinions of a lot of draft analysts, for whatever that means. I'm not a draft analyst, but I like to pretend I'm one sometimes. Um, that they got their draft was so like just unbelievably like disparaged. People really did not like Orlando's draft, which in most of their defenses I hated half of it. But I do think the Jet Howard pick greatly overshadowed how solid of a pick Anthony Black is for this team. So yeah, I agree with you. I mean, he certainly did not look like he needed much more than what he already was right now to
mm,
be their starting point guard. I totally agree with you. Big shouts out to him. I'm going to go to my propaganda, Bernie. This one I think is both of our propaganda at this point. We both feel very similarly about this guy. Our guy, Kenny Lofton Jr., man. Can we get this
yep.
guy out of the summer league? Can we get this guy onto an actual team that's going to play him real minutes consistently? He's too good to just be like a forgotten man in
Hmm.
Memphis. He's too good. Is there a
Yep.
universe, Bernie? Let me ask you my craziest question with this guy, and I think I'm right. I think I could be right if somebody gives him the chance. It's more a matter of do you see it like I see it? Kenny Lofton Jr. has a potential to be like a small ball five, but the offensive version of Draymond. Instead of just like, Draymond is like the defensive, like elite, that's his elite skill set.
Hmm.
I genuinely think Kenny Lofton Jr. has a better offensive game than 90% of power forwards and centers that I see like get like 5 minutes on these teams. I love Kenny Lofton Jr. I wish I would run a team. I could run a team just so I could go get him and give him some minutes somewhere.
Yeah, I mean Kenny Lofton Jr. definitely showing you his improvements over the last couple years. Again, I'm hoping that he kind of gets a chance, an opportunity this coming season. Who knows? I know that we'll see what the Grizzlies go with because I know they've obviously added and acquired some pieces. They've obviously lost some pieces as well. So I'm curious to see how he performs in the future. Yeah. Kenny Lofton definitely a guy that I had as a definitely one of those guys that I want to see him play a lot more, see him play in the league because I think he's that good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for him, and hopefully he gets a chance, man. It's going to be super frustrating if he doesn't. And I know
Uh,
this league can be very political at times, and I think it's who it's who teams and GMs like, and you know, I know that these guys can sometimes forget some of these other young talented players that
yeah,
really should be
just
playing.
fall through the cracks. Really, I mean, he's on a team that just doesn't really have room for him. Like that's the most unfortunate part of it about it is like he clearly has talent well outside of what he's put in front of in terms of like his plate, but he doesn't actually get to exert any of it inside outside of games like this. I mean, we saw this dude was it last summer league absolutely body at Holmgren in that first game. And it was, one of the things that, some of the anti-Chet believers like me at the time was like, look at this. I mean, this guy is absolutely bullying Chet. He was the second pick. And then you go back the year before that, you had Kenny Lofton Jr. bullying Victor Wembanyama in, some international, I think it was U18 games that happened. It might have been like the what was it, the under 21 Olympics or something? I don't remember what it was, but he absolutely bullied both of those guys. Yeah, I'd get him off the bench, get him some actual minutes. Another guy, Bernie, I got one. This one's a little bit in the negative direction. Are we ready to go that way, or what do we want to do? Do we have a few more studs?
The only studs that I kind of want to shout out really quick are Max Christie from the
Yeah, he
Lakers. I
looked
mean,
really good.
body is completely changed. Studied under Phil Handy. I mean, like I said, I'm a Phil Handy believist,
You truly
propagandist.
you ride for Phil Handy like I ride for Scoot. That's your Scoot. Is Phil
Phil
Handy.
Handy, because he literally like I see Rui Hachimura develop and perform a lot better when he's coached under him. I even Hood Shafino actually looks good for the
He
Lakers.
looked really solid. Yeah.
So I think the Lakers have some solid pieces for the future. I mean, obviously, let's see what Hood Shafino does on a roster in terms of if he's going to make if he's going to be a two
Get
way type of
minutes, yeah.
player or if he's going to be a guy that solely plays with the Lakers. But I think Christie could be a guy that could contribute some minutes right away. But I just kind of wanted to shout out those guys really quick.
I'll throw a couple more out too, just before we move to some more maybe negative criticism of a couple guys. Not too much, like we said at Summer League. Um, who else did I notice? Let me get back to my thing I was just looking at. My bad. Totally lost it.
Another guy that I liked is Gui Santos. I know he played on the Golden State Warriors. I mean, he just looks
Yeah.
solid, man. The Brazilian. I know a lot of people don't really know him, but I
Oh,
like his game.
he looks pretty solid too. Actually, all right. Here's who I forgot, and this is another. This is one more of my my propaganda moments here. All right. I was big on this guy coming into this draft, and I feel like he's already shown why he was greatly undervalued and underrated coming in, and why OKC is the best drafting team of all teams. Asan Wallace. I mean, the dude is he. The fact that people had him projected in like the 20s, low teens, like high teens, I guess you'd say, it didn't make very much sense to me coming into the draft.
Mhm.
And here we go again, right? OKC makes the trade. They take him from Dallas. Um, he's just gonna get minutes for this team, man. He's just an overall good player already, and he's still a kid. And
Mhm.
this is what these guys do. They have an absolute defensive nightmare in the making in Oklahoma City between Kassan Wallace, Chet, Jalen Williams. You have SGA. Josh Giddey is going to be the worst defender of all of them, but even then, all they're so huge.
Yep.
such a huge lineup of rangy defenders who can all kind of shoot and handle the ball. I I'm not a big Presti guy, but in my defense, this is the type of thing I always asked for from Presti. Like, if you're going to commit to getting all these picks, you got to actually like keep some veterans on the team and actually go for it. Can't just be throw crazy projects at the wall and hope it sticks. It is what he's doing now is really truly what he was getting credit for when he wasn't doing it, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like, he actually is taking guys who are gonna get minutes and
Solid player. It's weird that not a lot of teams went for him because he's kind of one of those guys that I feel like you need on your team. So
he could have gone on so many teams. Such a great defender already, and he can shoot three. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
all right, Pete,
I
lead the
don't think
way.
let's just let's go into negative, but let's do the biggest one right now, literally and figuratively, because we had literally one really bad and one really good from Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
What'd you see, Bernie? What'd you think? I know we've already talked a ton about this kid, but we finally got to see him in summer league. What is your takeaway from these first two games?
I think kind of like what I said in my video. I don't want to keep hyping up our stuff here on the channel, but it's kind of what I talked about in the video. Like defensively, instantly is going to be defensively a great player. Like I said, off ball defense, kind of on ball defense. Like he's going to get like 5 to 7 blocks a game just because of how long he is. He's probably going to be guarding some guards at times, and he's one of those guys that is versatile. He can switch 1 through 5. Maybe 2 through 5. I think the one may be a little too quick for him at times, but still has the catch up speed and can block shots from behind. And so, um, yeah, I mean he had a bad game in the first game. I would kind of count that to nerves, kind of like the pressure I would say of everybody watching you, and really um, kind of going to a style that doesn't really conduce well to what Wembenyama should be doing out there,
Yes.
right? Like we look at him in the French league and other things like that. He's not a guy that goes one on one or attacks you off the dribble. Like he can do that, but more than what I see from like the French league to what I see here, more ball passing, more kind of back and forth type of stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, I kind of saw what I kind of expected from Wembanyama. It's kind of what happened with Chet last year a little bit. Is I think he obviously got pushed around a little bit. It means he has to be in the weight room a little bit more. Needs to
Mhm.
gain a little more weight and really get some strength in him. But at the end of the day, um, I think he's going to be solid defensively. I think you're going to see his impact right away. Offensively, I think it's a little bit of a wait and see and a little bit of a patience because again, he's so new to this and um, he's not going to be a guy that like catches or takes people off the dribble. He's going to be a guy that is going to be like the second option offensively for any team. Like I know that they want him to be the first option, but they just have to be patient with him. I think it's going to take like a year or two to really get him going to being that superstar, that like next gen, one of those players that is a game breaker and a game changer.
See, I'll disagree just slightly in the sense that I do think he's definitely going to be. I mean, he can certainly be a number one offensive potential or player on a good team in the future. I think like that'll happen for
Yeah,
sure.
I
And
meant like
honestly,
this
I
year.
think
Like
yeah,
this
for
year
sure.
is just
This year, yeah, this year, no. I mean, this is a learning year. Like if I'm a San Antonio fan, I'm happy if he plays 50 games. Like, and I'm not saying through injury. I'm just saying he plays 50 games, improves, team around him starts to look a little bit better. You got to take this first season with a grain of salt. He's 18 or 19 years old. And more importantly, the team around him isn't very good. Like that's the next thing. And the funny part, Bernie, about we kind of talked about this in our group chat as well, texting, just watching the game. I just don't think there's an easier time to tell, like when you're reading people, spread their opinions on basketball. I don't think there's an easier time to tell that people don't watch basketball, or just to be able to distinctly tell who watches regularly and understands the game versus those who don't,
yeah.
other than summer league. Because really, you see these people, like the thing that that made me laugh the most that first game is the clips that are going around. The Britney Spears clips were actually hilarious. Those were genuinely funny. The things that were funny to me in ironic sense was, you see the clip of Brandon Miller crossing Wemby over, right?
Yeah.
And people talking about how bad Wembanyama is, as if him getting crossed over is this guy's a bust. He's not ever going to be as good of a defender. He's playing in a summer league game. They're not running sets. Not only that, most of the guys don't even understand the sets that San Antonio is actually going to run in real professional basketball games. They're not setting professional level screens and, setting picks and everything for Wemby the way that actual high level guys are going forward. So you look at a guy like Wemby, who, like you said, Bernie, and this is the thing where this is what I'm getting to as far as people not really truly understanding the game. They see a guy like Brandon Miller take Wemby one-on-one and say, oh boy, look at this, right? This guy,
Yeah.
how is he better than him? That's not what basketball is. That's
Yeah.
literally not what the sport is. It is not a 1 versus 1 sport. It is a 5 versus 5 full game of basketball. You need all 5 guys and some bench guys to win games. How many times did Kobe lose one-on-one? How many
Mhm.
times has LeBron, MJ lost? It's so many you couldn't even count. But the thing is, it's not what the game is, so it doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
I don't know, man. It's clearly a learning curve. He needed to get adjusted to the speed. Like you said, he clearly played nervous too. He looked like he was shaking in the beginning.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't? He has everybody in the world watching him, basically, in a summer league game. He's
Yeah.
going to get better. He got better one game later, and he was easily one of the most dominant performances we've seen in the summer league. So
Yeah.
just got to take it one step at a time. And it seems Smith Jr., his contemporaries and peers from his draft class,
Mhm.
he got a better opportunity clearly than Chet, but much better than Jabari Smith Jr. too, to really get shots and develop in real games. And honestly, he looked by far the least polished of most of the second year vets who are in that top lottery pick kind of category. Um, yeah, I wasn't really too impressed with him. What do you think, Bernie? Did you see his any of his stuff?
I mean, I saw a little bit of his game. Again, like I talked about before, um, I just think that the whole backcourt for the, oh,
Pistons, like you're saying,
yeah,
just like the build of it, because honestly, I mean, as far as a summer league team is concerned, it makes sense.
yeah. I mean, I,
Does
I think the disappointing thing for me in terms of the Pistons is really like you have Jaden Ivey, you have Cade
Cade
Cunningham, you
obviously
had Cade,
Duran.
you have Killian Hayes, and now you have Asur Thompson. It's just like a lot of guys. Like I know Asur is more of like a forward, can play the two. But man, it is. I feel like they just. They're another team that's like weirdly constructed because I love their bigs. Um, I think their bigs are awesome, but then like the guard play, like it just doesn't mesh well. A team that probably should have done a lot better than it did last year. It continues to.
Mm. If
Uh,
they had Cade, I mean, he got hurt like in the
yeah,
first 2 weeks or whatever. So
yeah, but still, I mean, it's kind of one of those things that I would have loved to see a little bit more from Jaden Ivey, and really, I would love to. I think that they should just kind of go with the sewer and forget about the other guards because it just seems so backlogged.
Cade, you got to keep Cade. I mean,
Well,
obviously,
Cade,
Cade.
obviously, but I meant like
Yeah,
they need to.
you think Jaden Ivey? You're saying you're down on Jaden Ivey too?
Down
Because
on Ivy,
honestly,
I'm down on
I
Ivy, and
think
I'm down on Killian Hayes. You know my Killian Hayes slander.
yeah. Well, I don't even think he fits into the equation anymore. I think he's gotten so many chances with them. It's not, I don't think they're waiting for that anymore. Personally, I think it's honestly. Soar to me is a 3. I think he's a 3. Maybe a slightly smaller 3, but he's a 3. Definitely well athletic enough to play with most threes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, their guard situation. I don't think it's as bad as you do per se. But it's also it could definitely be better. They
Yeah,
definitely need to figure out what they have. I think that's the biggest thing. They don't really know what they have with any of their guys. They don't know what Cade is. Nobody does. Aiden Ivey, nobody really knows. I mean, you think of all the comparisons he got to, guys like Ja last year coming into his rookie season. I mean, Ja, whatever you think of him, he's summer league. So again, not saying no, these aren't bust calls. I have no clue. I'm just saying he very well should be their best offensive option on this Toronto Raptors summer league team, and their offense was god awful. Part of that has to do with the fact that that's not his game to like make his own offense. Really, he's a shooter, catch and shoot guy, just 3-point out at the line type of guy, out around the arc. That being said, it still didn't look very good, so I'm not too sure about that. But yeah, I don't really want to call too many people out in its summer league. I think that's a little unfair.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens in the regular season. I know that a lot of guys are
Goes outside of just my rant.
okay. Let
Let
us
you lead
start.
it though.
Okay. Alrighty, so we're gonna get to the last topic of today's recorded segment. Again, I do apologize to the people that are watching on YouTube. YouTube is having some weird issues, live section wise, so I do apologize that it's not really gonna look too pretty. And I do, like I said, I do apologize that OBS has kind of messed it up just a little bit. But um, to kind of end things and to kind of put this out as a final video for the week, I'll probably put this out on Friday. Maybe put it out a little earlier just in case Dame does get traded. You obviously guys know, spoiler alert, we're gonna talk about the Damian Lillard trade. Pete has a rant to go on about Damian Lillard, so we're gonna let him go on his rant, and kind of have this be the final, I would say, topic of the day. So Pete, I'm gonna let you kind of start it off since this is your rant, and you can go any way you want with it.
All right, Bernie. Again, as usual, I feel like I'm going to take an unpopular stance here, but that's what I do around here. I have to play the contrarian, but it's how I feel, man. I think there's a lot of people see things, they hear, big people say this thing, people they like, and then let's just go with it. But that's not how I am. I'll disagree with people I like all the time because that's what life is. I'm allowed to have my own opinion. I think this Damian Lillard situation is some BS, Bernie. And by that I mean his forced trade only to Miami. And here's my reason. He is very much of the opinion, and a lot of people seem to feel the same way in his defense for him, that he is owed whatever he wants in terms of his exit from Portland. No matter what the repercussions of that are for Portland. And the reason behind that are how much he's done for the team and the city, and he's the greatest trailblazer of all time, according to some crazy people. But that's not really what basketball is at the level he's trying to do it at. It's
Mm-hmm.
a business. I'm not taking the side of owners. Every team's fan base has something good in their lives. This is the wrong way to do it. Now, I'm going to give you a litany of reasons why, Bernie. All right. One, I'm going to start from not as important to more important, and I'm going to get through them pretty quickly. One, all the claims that he's the greatest trailblazer of all time, they have to do this for him, what they owe him. No, he's not. He's not the greatest trailblazer of all time. One. And two, that even if he was, that doesn't mean they should just sell themselves out for him, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
people are going to forget Bill Walton every time, and especially Clyde Drexler. Clyde Drexler went to finals against Michael Jordan. He was such a competitor for Michael Jordan that Michael Jordan had to go so far as to break the dude mentally so he didn't have to worry about him anymore. And I'm not saying that's the reason he did it necessarily, but Clyde was going toe to toe with the best player ever. Didn't win ever, but he was going. Dame's never going against the best guy in the
Mm-hmm.
finals or Eastern Conference or Western Conference finals. He's not doing that. You can't even say he's the best trailblazer. He's not even second. Now, next part. Your loyalty only goes so far as you're willing to show it in, respect both ways, right? You've been very loyal to him. And there's people, I've seen people saying crazy stuff like they haven't been and they never did anything to help him out. They did crazy amounts of stuff to help him out. Not necessarily like he's LeBron, or like, did they always put the greatest team around him? No, right? But that doesn't happen for anybody. And they're in one of probably the 5 smallest markets in the whole league.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still playing with other all-stars. He's still playing with guys who are sought after by other teams. It's not like he's just alone on an island. I think that that's one of the things that gets me the most frustrated about this, Bernie. This dude all of a sudden is acting like he had nothing for years and years. He chose to be there. Could have left any time. He could have asked so many times, Bernie. Now that he sees fit to ask now, it has to happen, and he has to go to the team that just made the Eastern Conference Finals, and they have to only give these certain guys because he wants to play with Bam and Jimmy. That's not loyalty. That's not going out of your way to help the team that you claim to be so loyal to in the city. If anything, you're putting them in the worst possible position to continue on successfully after you, right? Because now they either do what the popular opinion thing is, which is to help Dame and just send him wherever he wants to go, regardless of what they get back. Or they can be the villain and hold on to this guy and try and get what he's actually worth or close to it, which is what they should do. It is a business. They're paying millions and millions of dollars to every one of these players. You can't just do favors. Not only that, you especially can't just do favors to the highest paid guys. Like, that's the thing that gets me the most. We live in a world, Bernie, I'm going to sound straight up old as hell for a second. We live in a world where the people at the bottom are going ass out to defend people who don't need favors anymore. Dame has a $60 million year coming up. This dude doesn't need you to defend his honor. He doesn't need it. Not only that, he especially doesn't need a favor from you. You already did him a favor. You gave him the biggest contract ever. I'm just upset at the fact that this is what the league is becoming in terms of these guys getting moved. I did this for you. You have to do this for me. It is about me. Loyalty, where is it now? You know, we're just going to say, I'm not going to play anywhere you want to send me. I'm going to sit out. Don't even call these other teams. Hey, other teams, don't even think about me. I'm never playing for you. I only want to go to Miami. And the only way Miami is going to trade for him is if it's Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez, and, you know, a couple first-round picks. That trade sucks. You're talking about Damian Lillard. That is the worst trade. I heard somebody put it in a great way. Only people who think Miami's trade package is the best one are Miami Heat fans. It is 100% true. It is the worst package anybody has even proposed, Damian Lillard. Yet, the small market team in Portland, I'm not a Trailblazers fan. I just find it unbelievably just conceited and backhanded to then claim, you know, where's the loyalty now? Where's all this? But you have, you know, literally forced everyone's hand by waiting this long. Just signed Jeremy Grant to a $160 million deal to try and convince him to stay. I love Jeremy Grant. That's a god-awful contract. He waited a day after free agency started to say anything. Now it's only send me to this team that it's honestly not that different than Kevin Durant in OKC, except this time everybody's defending him. I mean, it's not like he's going to one of the greatest teams ever. That's not what I mean. But he's going to ring chase without it being called ring chasing. And on top of that, now the only team that, or the only people that are going to suffer are Portland Trailblazers fans. They're the only people that are going to suffer from this, in their front office too, for that matter. What do you think, Bernie? Am I just like upset about nothing? I just find it really, really, I just find it atrocious that these rich guys, these guys are the top of the top. They don't need favors, but they can act so upset and so hurt, and it doesn't all go their way. And then you have all these just sycophants out there just agreeing. Yeah, Dame. Look at Dame, man. You remember that 3 hit against Paul George? Send him wherever he wants. No. We're trying to set Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharp and all these young guys up for success. They're not trying to go get nothing. It's disgusting, Bernie. I honestly, I'm gonna be straight up. I've lost some respect for Dame. Genuinely. I genuinely
Wow.
have. I genuinely have. You could have asked for this forever. Forever. Now you wait until this time and force their hand to get the worst possible thing they could get for you in return after they gave you the greatest contract anyone's ever got. Having never won a Western Conference Finals. He made it once and it was a fluke. Now we're going to act like this guy is, God's gift to earth in Portland and, we need to do anything for him. No. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I will say is in like Lillard's defense, I think that I think he's done a lot, um, for Portland, so I'll give him his credit there.
I'm not
Uh,
taking it away from him. I'm not.
but what I will say is this: I think you're being a little harsh on Damian Lillard, just from the sense that I think I think realistically, whether it is um the public wanting it or him wanting it. I just think that at the end of the day, a lot of people wanted Damian Lillard out of Portland. I think that there's a growing consensus because he's not going to win anything, because he is kind of stuck in a proverbial hellhole, which you would call Portland. Just because there's obviously they have young
By
guys
his
and
own choice, Bernie. Don't forget that. He didn't need to re-sign there, my man. He didn't. He wanted the check, my guy.
and there's nothing
He's
wrong with
looking
wanting the
at
check and then moving, man.
there's there's nothing, but you can't have it both ways, Bernie. You can't say that and then say, right, well now you get to do whatever you want too. Like that's absurdly unfair. Like I totally agree. There is nothing wrong with wanting the check if you're that great. You also can't just then bend everyone over a barrel that helped you get there. Like what? Even compute to my brain how anybody could still say, we live, dude. All right. I'm sorry, I'm back on it. You got me back into it. We live in such a money hungry driven culture. We excuse just garbage behavior all the time from everybody. But then it muddles up what's right and wrong so much that situations like this basically just get boiled down to, hey, he took the money. I couldn't blame him. I agree. But you did the thing that got you the big check you wanted, and now you're going to do everything you can to screw the people who gave you the check. Maybe I'm just an old, stupid idiot who has respect for some sort of structure more than I should, but I just don't think I don't think that's fair to anybody in any profession ever, Bernie. You
Mhm.
couldn't do that in any job you worked. Nobody could. He happens to be in a situation where he can claim to be the greatest trailblazer of all time. And whether or not it's him doing all this behind the scenes, I have no clue, but he's allowing it to happen. It's more you use this goodwill to then start doing negative stuff, and all of the little negative stuff is going to get overlooked because I couldn't blame him. He was chasing the bag. Give a damn if you're chasing the bag. Everybody in the league is. You can't sell all the guys you just spent a locker room, spent a season in a locker room with. You can't just sell them all down the river because you think it's time to leave now. Can't do that.
Yeah.
Like where I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just too upset about it. I just think it's unbelievable that Miami can act like this is the only way we can go forward is to give you Tyler Hero, who honestly he just saw a team go farther without him than they could have gone with him, and now he's worth Damian Lillard. That's nonsense. That's actually hot garbage. And if it was any team but Miami offering the package, and if it was any guy but Dame saying he wanted to force the issue, people would probably be where I'm at.
Yeah.
But because it's Dame and because we have goodwill and because it's the Heat and we have goodwill with them, we're going to excuse garbage behavior that is really why the league is in this position, Bernie. It's all these guys chasing rings and chasing huge contracts without thinking about any of the other guys on their teams that make the mid-levels, make the lower, rookie contracts or vet minimums or things. And it goes even beyond that. It's the fans too. I just think it's gross, man. They don't deserve him. Miami doesn't deserve him, and he doesn't deserve to go to Miami. That's my final point. I think it's gross.
What if he goes to New York? Would you be okay with it?
I don't want him in New York just for the fit of it all. But even then, like that makes way more sense. Makes way more sense on paper. It's Bernie, it has much less to do with the fact that it is specifically the Heat and specifically Damian Lillard and more how they're all going about it.
Yeah.
It's literally like the equivalent of basketball extortion. You have people who will say the Utah offering Paul Reed the qualifying is dirty business. It's a poison pill contract, right? What is Danny Ainge doing to the 76ers? He's, making them go into the luxury tax with this. Then nobody will even say like, what are these guys doing? The Miami Heat were just in the finals and now they're going to, basically just blackmail the Trailblazers into giving them Damian Lillard for a guy that they don't want.
Yeah.
It's nonsense. If your team, Bernie, if the Celtics were in this situation, let's say it's Jaylen Brown in Houston, right? He wants to go back to play for Ime, he wants to go to Houston, and let's just say all the situation is exactly the same. You have years of respect and love built up for this guy, but then he's basically going to force your team into the situation where they're going to lose based on trading you no matter what happens because you've made it or the guy has made it so the Celtics are going to be worse. How would you feel? Would you feel like this guy, you know what, I can look past that?
Yeah, I mean it's
Or
a tough
would you
one.
say, why didn't you just leave when you wanted to leave?
No.
Should have left.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I mean, I think it's a tough situation because I think for both the players and the fans and really the GM and the ownership, it's they want the best for everybody. And I get to be frustrated with Lillard and things like that. But at the end of the day, I think it kind of boils down to the player. And again, I get it because he's under contract. My stance has always been if he's under contract, you signed it, honor it, and when you're officially done with it, move on. And so I think that's kind of I would say that would be my stance for everything here would be you signed the long-term contract. If that's what you're doing, that's fine. But just know that if that's what you're going to do,
you should take a pay cut because the ways the rules are structured, if you don't stay with the same team, you shouldn't get as much money, right? That rule means nothing now. That rule is garbage because nobody has to abide by it.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing because you have guys like Damian Lillard who can get the best contract he humanly can, knowing full well he's probably going to ask to leave the next season, and then do it, right? And I don't know. I think honestly, Bernie, and this is the last thing I'll say for it because this topic gets me way too heated. I think my biggest problem with it is just all the excuse making. Not by him, not by his team, not by anybody in actual professional basketball. It's all the people who just come out and defend. And I shouldn't say, I more mean like in the direct business of it. So all the ex-players talking about it, all the fans talking about it, everybody just making excuses about chasing the bag and get your check and then whatever happens, the teams have to suffer from it. That's just a garbage mentality of just pure selfishness. It's absolutely despicable, dude. To me it is. Because really, what's the difference if you said Damian Lillard last season, I could sign this mega, super max here, the 8-year supermax or whatever it was that he signed and get my 63 million, or I can go to Miami, get the contract, the biggest max I can get. That's maybe like a $25 million cut, and
Yeah.
everybody kind of wins, right? But the only loser is the 25 million. But that 25 million is worthy of everyone suffering in the long run, according to a ton of fans and ex-players and all these people, man. I just don't understand why we celebrate that level of greed. I don't think it makes anything more fun. And I'm not necessarily even calling Damian Lillard greedy. That's really not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying defending every action, excusable and not, what the intention of getting money was. Not life is not a Jay-Z song, believe it or not, for most people. Like we are allowed to look past the money every so often and just, be good people and do the right thing and be good teammates if you're Damian Lillard. So I'm sure I sound old. I'm sure people are not going to like my opinion. I'm sure I probably sound way too heated about something that doesn't affect me. However, I just societally, the structure of what we do as a organism, the human being
Yeah.
organism that we are, Bernie.
Hmm.
I just think it's really unfair to to defend guys like this. Like, he's allowed to get some guff based on this choice he's made.
Yeah.
But people act like you can't say anything about Damian Lillard. Who gives a damn about it, dude? He's making 60 mil. He doesn't care what anybody has to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely tough, and we'll see what happens in the future, man. So let us know in the comment section down below. What do you guys make of the Damian Lillard situation? Are you a fan of his move? Are you not a fan of what he's doing? Let us know in the comment section down below, and let me know what you guys think about Pete's comments. Is he right? Is he wrong? Is he kind of in the middle? Where do you guys land with Pete's comments? Let us know in the comment section down below. All right, I think that's gonna do it.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure the time has expired a little bit. So um,
Unfortunately, yeah, I got to leave in a few minutes.
it's all good.